Thank you for listening to this podcast from
unwanted.com.
If you like what you hear, please consider liking, sharing, reviewing and subscribing on iTunes, Stitcher or your podcast feed of choice and help us to keep creating and improving our content.
Thank you.
From two podcasters that have never been accused of sexual indiscretion, this is Jump the Shark, the pop culture podcast from the unheardnerd.com. My name is Will, and joining me, as always, is the lovely and beautiful John. How are you, John?
I'm good, thank you, Will. Thank you for that lovely intro.
Lovely and beautiful, as always.
Yes.
I was looking at your Skype profile. I was thinking, that's a handsome man. No, I'm not coming on to you. That's not sexual indiscretion. That's just a compliment between two guys.
Where's my Twitter account? Hashtag #MeToo.
Oh no. I mean, sad times. I don't know. Are you a fan of Chris Hardwick at all, John?
I'm not really familiar with the man.
Okay. So, for anyone that isn't familiar with him, and he's kind of a podcasting legend. He's a very early adopter of the podcasting format. He's a former MTV presenter. He worked on, I can't remember what the channel was, but it's like G4 or something in the US, the gaming network.
Oh, I remember that, yeah. So
he was a presenter on there. He's been in, I think, one of the Terminator movies. I want to say Salvation. I think he was in that as an actor. But generally he's known as a podcaster, and he started Nerdist.com. I don't know if you know Nerdist.
I've heard of Nerdist, yeah.
So he started that a long time ago, and then a while ago he sold it to Legendary Entertainment. And he was kept on as a consultant for Legendary as a digital, entrepreneur or something. I don't know. He helped them set up their digital presence. And then he was no longer part of Nerdist, and he took his podcast, hugely popular Nerdist podcast, and he changed it to ID10T, or Idiot. He rebranded it and took it away from Nerdist. So he's not really anything to do with Nerdist anymore. But there's been a recent story of his former girlfriend. He's now married to Lydia Hearst, one of the heiress to the Hearst fortune in America, whom I know very little about. But I think it's publishing. They were in publishing. But she's the heiress to that fortune. He's married, doing very well for himself. He does shows on AMC. He does The Talking Dead after The Walking Dead. Talking show about that. He has a few other shows, Midnight, and he does a game show and stuff like that. But a former Nerdist employee and his ex-girlfriend came out and accused him of sexual indiscretions and abuse and all sorts. And shit hit the fan for him. Oh. And then a backlash for her, inevitably. And it's all pretty sad. But the upshot of this is I reported on it on the Unheard Nerd because I thought it was relevant to our readership. And we lost one Facebook follower.
I did see that conversation.
Which is a shame because the guy that we lost has been pretty supportive of what we've been doing and liking a lot. And so shame that one or two articles, as it turned out, was enough to put someone off the rest of our content. But so be it. We gained another couple since then, so I'm all right with that.
Yes,
I'm all right with that. John, it's been a while since we spoke. It seems like that was quite a serious start to the show. That was weird. It seems like ages since we spoke, and that's really all my fault, I think. On the account
of off to New York,
going on holiday, to New York, which was fantastic. I probably mentioned it a few times. I hope I don't bore you with it. And also, rather sad news, my dad had a heart attack, and I've not been able to find the time to update the website and podcast either. But he's all right now. He's at home, and he's still alive, which is good news. Good news. Mostly. So yeah, sorry about that. It seems like ages, and I'm going to try and sneak this podcast into the end of June, so that we're keeping with our one a month. But it is a really good possibility because the football's on tomorrow, England versus Belgium in the World Cup, that it's not going to see the light of day until early July, because I'm doing something this weekend that I absolutely detest, John. I'm going camping.
Oh.
I hate camping. I despise camping. I haven't enjoyed camping ever. I camped really only at festivals mostly, apart from when I was a scout or cub or whatever they are. And I do not like it. I work in the hospitality industry. I work in hotels. I get cheap hotels all around the world. I like a shower. And, I'm not keen on the whole backache thing either.
No.
So I'm not looking forward to this weekend, but it's my youngest daughter's school. Like, they have all the families get together and do this camping trip once a year.
All right.
And last year we just sent her off with another family. It's like, yeah, go with them. It's fine. This year we couldn't get out of it. We've had to go as well.
Oh no.
Camping, which is shit compared to New York. Because I went to New York. Hooray!
Did you?
I did. Do you know what I discovered, John? Going to New York, everything feels really familiar because you see it on TV so much. It's true. I'm walking around, I'm going, oh, I recognise that. Oh, that looks familiar. Like, nothing feels like strange. It doesn't feel like another country because we literally see New York on TV all the time. You watch Brooklyn Nine.
Walking around with your arm outstretched, pointing, going, look at that! I've seen it! Look at that! It's that! Look at that! From that!
And maybe a finger extended at Trump Tower as well along the way. Or political. Let's not go there. The disgust. I couldn't walk on the same side of the road.
Good for you.
On the other side of that road. I mean, we were already on the other side of the road, but yeah. But yes, John, I did while in New York, and you've already cursed at me before the show started recording. I did actually fulfill something of a dream, something of a bucket list item. I did manage to go to the Ghostbusters fire station.
Hook and ladder 38, isn't it?
Just 8. Just 8.
Just 8.
Yeah. Unless I went to the wrong one. That would be unfortunate.
I think the graffiti on the pavement was a bit of a giveaway.
Yeah, that could have been a ruse just to divert you to the wrong place. There were other Ghostbusters fans there. We went quite early in the day. I mean, say early, 10, 11. So it wasn't too busy. The roads were actually quite quiet as well. But I was a little bit disappointed that it's not actually a working firehouse anymore. It's closed. I was under the impression that it was still an active fire station, and having watched some of the YouTube videos of people going to pay homage to it and making a pilgrimage, I have seen videos of the firehouse in operation and firemen posing with people. But when we got there, it was well and truly closed, and they had a sort of barrier across the front of it, which was a little bit disappointing. But still, got some good photos. Some other Ghostbusters fans, also from England, were there and took a photo of me and my whole family outside of it. And
hey.
And they've got a rather badly drawn Ghostbusters sign on the pavement outside.
Yeah, I noticed that.
It's really not very good, is it?
Not at all.
But it serves a purpose. So that was fun. And you can also see the mansion house from Ghostbusters at the edge of Central Park.
Oh, yeah.
As well. So another Ghostbusters spot there. There's so many things you could see in New York. You could do the Friends thing, go to the fountain that was in the introduction, and see the coffee shop and see where the apartment is, and any number of things. But the Ghostbusters firehouse was really the only thing I wanted to do, and that was my birthday treat. I was like, there's only one thing I want to do. It's my birthday. There's only one thing I want to do. I want to go. Yeah. I want to go there, and it was only a few blocks really from where we were staying, so it's quite convenient.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, there we go. So what we did while we were there, and I promise I won't go on about New York all the time, but it was quite a fun thing to do, is go to places in New York, and then in the evening, because we've got young kids and you can't be out too late, we'd go back to the apartment and watch a film of where we'd just been. So we watched Ghostbusters that evening, and the kids could see the firehouse and understand what we were talking about. And then we went to the American Museum of Natural History, and so we watched a night at the museum that evening. And again, a lot of the things we'd seen and things we'd taken photos with were in that film, and it just made it a really fun sort of learning experience for the kids as well, to have that pop culture reference, as well as actually seeing the things in real life. So
awesome.
That was really fun. And I tried to think of all the films that have New York in that I enjoy, and there's loads. If you think about like Spider-Man films, they're all in New York. You know, the Ghostbusters films, Night at the Museum, Escape from New York. That's an obvious one. But there are literally dozens and dozens. You think the Avengers film set in New York, the first one.
Yeah.
Loads and loads of New York movies that you can watch. Kind of crazy. And then the trailer came out for the animated Spider-Man film with Miles Morales in. And have you seen that? That animated trailer?
No, I'm not really into animated Spider-Man, but yeah, go on.
It looks really good. The animation is really cool. It's like an actual comic book brought to life. It's so well done. And it is obviously set in New York because that's where Spider-Man is set. You know, he's a New Yorker. And you know, even just the animation, it looks, you know, the same. It is the same. It's you're seeing things that you see every day in New York. So it was quite nice to come back to as well. It made me really excited for that. So yeah, there you go. Lots of yellow cabs with Solo adverts on, and I haven't seen that yet. So should we do what we've watched since the last time we spoke, and I can just weep silently while you talk about Solo.
Well, I can't see any spoilers now.
I mean, I kind of have heard some spoilers, so I'm pretty sure.
Spoiler alert. Will is about to spoil some shit.
Darth Maul's in it.
That's the biggest spoiler of the lot, but yeah.
Oh, shh, don't tell anyone. Okay, I'll do a spoiler alert before, or maybe I'll forget, but, you know, either way, spoilers.
I did have that spoiled by Reddit before I even saw the film, so I knew that was coming.
Yeah, when you suddenly see lots of pictures of Darth Maul popping up on your Facebook feed, and and headlines that say that a completely unexpected cameo or the big cameo, it's like it's not hard to put two and two together. And I've really wanted to go and watch it, but it just isn't. It's just not working out. Yeah, kids have parties to go to and social lives, and do you think it's suitable for kids? It's a PG.
Yeah, I don't see why not. It's just, you know, it's Star Wars. It's got like a, you know, a sort of a safe level of action. There's nothing violent or scary.
Well, my girls have seen all the Star Wars films except Rogue One, and we thought Rogue One was just a little bit more adult. And they've shown no interest in watching it either. I don't think it appeals in the same way as the other Star Wars films do. But we had considered taking them to see Solo. But again, I haven't got around to it because there's just been loads of other shit going on. But how do you rate it? How does it fit into the Star Wars saga? Where's it placed in the films?
Well, it's set before A New Hope, although unlike Rogue One, there's nothing trying to, you know, directly link one, you know, the end of one to the beginning of another.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's a story I don't think we really needed, but on the other hand, it is a very entertaining adventure. Thoroughly enjoyed it from start to end.
It looks like a lot of fun. It looks like there's a lot of sort of comedy to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of funny moments, especially I can't remember the main droid in it, who's played by a British actress.
It's L33T.
That's it. Yeah, Leet.
Leet. Yeah.
She's very funny. But I mean, with the two big problems I had going into it were all the production stories and rumors. Obviously, the two directors who originally almost finished it were fired, and Ron Howard took over. And the other big rumor that concerned me was the fact that what's his name? Is it Eldritch?
Yeah.
Aldrich. Yeah. Aldrich. The fact he needed coaching lessons on set, and it's like, oh Christ, this doesn't sound very good, does it? And you know, it's all being rushed. It's all these problems were happening. They go, oh, it's still coming out in May, which is like just after December from The Last Jedi. It's like, don't you worry that people will be a bit sick of Star Wars? You know, it's only a few months. Why don't you just release it at Christmas?
December,
give yourself all that extra time to iron out the problems and tweak it and fix it. But no, Lucasfilm were like, no, it's coming out in May, sod it. Yeah, both me and the missus come out thoroughly entertained. It's a really good film.
Cool. I'm ever so jealous that you've seen it. But yeah, I think, I mean, I like the idea of the May release. Sorry, I've got a squeaky chair, you can probably hear that. I like the idea of the May release because it ties in with the anniversary of the original Star Wars release, May 27th 1976 or whatever it was, 1977. And so I get that. I get why they want to do that. And I think that was always the intention, that they would have the summer film. And the Rogue One, I think, was supposed to come out in May. I think that's the idea. They have the summer film that ties in with the anniversary, and then the saga is the December or whatever. But I agree, it does seem like a rush after The Last Jedi to then bring out Solo so quickly. It's almost like they weren't able to hype it enough.
The marketing felt very late.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of marketing to it. It felt, certainly not to the extent that you see for the main saga films.
No, I understand they didn't want to confuse people, and people are like, "Oh, hang on a minute, how many films are coming out? What is with Jedi and what Solo? What, I don't get it." So I can understand why they wanted to keep them specifically apart. But the problem was that the release dates were so close together. By the time the marketing started for Solo, it's just like, "Oh, I think you're leaving it a bit late, guys."
Yeah.
I mean, the first trailer was it February for the Super Bowl, wasn't it? I think it was the first trailer we saw.
I think so, yeah.
And that's when everyone started clawing it apart, going, "Oh, hang on a minute, what's this look like?" As the internet does.
So how convincing is the actor as Han Solo?
I just completely went with the flow. I just completely forgot, it wasn't Harrison Ford. It didn't bother me at all. I liked his performance so much.
Yeah.
I just wasn't really fussed that they didn't, it wasn't a CGI young Harrison Ford or something. It's like, okay, he's playing Han Solo, I can deal with that.
That would have driven me insane. A whole film of a CGI character would just, I'd probably combust in the cinema. My popcorn would be popped twice because it'd be frizzled human underneath it. I couldn't stand that. God.
Well, no, the only CGI main characters in this are Elite and probably aliens here and there.
Yeah, I can live with that. Characters that aren't human don't bother me. I can go with that. It doesn't bother me at all. It's just the human characters that really bugs me. I might have mentioned it a few times.
He might have done. For those Ron Howard fans out there, you'll be happy to know that his brother does make an appearance. Clint
Yes,
Howard.
That was the only thing holding me back. That's a bigger spoiler than Darth Maul, though. To be fair.
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I mean he's in all of his films. Of course, he was going to be in it. There's just no way he wasn't going to be in it. But I'm glad to hear he is still in work, still able to feed his family. That's good news.
Good news for the Howards.
Okay. Well, I will get around to watching Solo at some point. It's getting a bit hard to find in cinemas at the moment. It's on, I think, like a midday screening in our local or nearest cinema now.
Yeah.
At a weekend. So it's possible I'll still catch it, but I won't be able to catch it this weekend because, again, I'm going fucking camping. So hopefully I'll catch that the week after. There's not a lot out of the cinema at the moment that's inspiring me to go and see it, to be honest. I think the next film that I might venture to see at the cinema will be Ant-Man and the Wasp. Which obviously is out in the US, I think, already, possibly, but won't be out in the UK.
I know the first reviews have come in and they've been very positive.
Okay, well, I'm pleased to hear that. As I rewatched the first Ant-Man film just a few weeks ago. I wasn't a fan of it. I didn't like it. I didn't really enjoy it the first few times I watched it. It felt like a TV movie in some respects, very low budget compared to some of the other films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
And it just felt a bit cheap. But I watched it again, and actually I enjoyed it a lot more this time. On the other hand, I've watched The Last Jedi again and fell asleep again. So
oh dear,
I just can't get on with that film at all. I don't enjoy it in any aspect. But never mind. But anyway, John, I don't know if I told you, but recently I went to New York. And
did you?
that involves fairly long flights there and back. BA flights, nice, a little bit more pricey, but worth it because you get good entertainment and good films. So I was able to watch a few films on the way there, 2 films on the way there and 1 on the way back.
Right.
And I finally got round to watching Black Panther.
Hooray!
Yeah, have you seen it yet?
I have seen it, yes.
I'm glad, because last time I'd seen Avengers Infinity War, and I hadn't seen Black Panther, and you asked me the question, like, do you need to have seen the Black Panther for it to make sense? And I said no, which is, I think, stands up, but it certainly helps if you have, in some respects.
Okay.
I don't know if you agree.
I've not seen Infinity War yet.
Have you not? Oh Christ! No. Okay, all right. Darth Maul's in it. Spoilers. But Black Panther's amazing. Like really, really, like probably one of the best Marvel Cinematic Universe films in my opinion. In the fact that it's refreshing and it's different and it's not like standard superhero stuff. It's like you got this whole tribal element and this like battle for power and this abandonment story, and the fact that the past isn't as glorious as you think it is, and you've got this whole otherworldly element to it. I really, really enjoyed it, and I think the cast were fantastic. The acting was supreme. I really enjoyed everything about it, and I was tempted to watch it a second time on the flight back.
Yeah.
But I chose to use my time to watch something else, which I kind of regret. I'll come on to that in a minute. Matt Damon.
Oh God, I think I know which one you've watched.
Yeah, you know what I've watched. I thought it was a comedy. It's not even funny.
It's not at all, is it?
Anyway, but yeah, Black Panther. What did you think? Did you enjoy it?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I wasn't really making an effort to watch the trailers because I don't know the character.
Right. Yeah.
It's not, to me. It's not a big Marvel. I mean, probably is a big Marvel character in that respect. But to me, I'm like, who is Black Panther? He's a guy who's in black and meow. Obviously,
just like that.
Obviously, we've seen him in was it Civil War? Civil War he first showed up.
Yeah.
So watch the film, what to expect, and yeah, me and the missus we both loved it. It was a brilliant film.
Yeah, I definitely need to buy it on Blu-ray. I generally buy all the Marvel films, whether I like them or not. That's the reason I own Doctor Strange. But that's not a good film. I don't enjoy that film.
It's the accent. I find it quite hard to get past the accent.
The accent is abysmal. On behalf of all Englishmen, I apologise, America. I mean, you guys have got a lot to answer for at the moment, but there's no excuse for that accent. It's despicable. If an Englishman can spot it's fake, then Americans must be insulted. But who knows? I don't know. Maybe there's a dialect in America where it's it works. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the only thing I didn't really like about Black Panther was the obvious product placement, especially the Lexus chase scene.
All right. Yeah.
Just a bit over the top. Just a little bit unnecessary. But
it's always annoying when it's done so much you would notice it.
Yeah, and Martin Freeman's American accent needs a bit of work as well. It's not so good either. But Andy Serkis was brilliant in it.
Oh, he's brilliant. Yeah, I love his character.
And the girl that plays Suri, she was in Humans, which is sort of I think it's is it HBO or AMC / Channel 4 show?
Yeah.
So sort of a cross-Atlantic joint project. She was in that. She was fantastic in that. So I'm not surprised that she's gone on to be quite a star, and she really stood out in that film. And I can see that there's some talk of there being a film based on just the women of the Black Panther movie, one of them being her, and how it would be a great sort of spy espionage film. Because you've got like the tech head, you've got the warrior, and you've got the spy. Those three characters make a perfect team, sort of, like a Charlie's Angels stuff without Charlie. Probably. So that, I don't know. I'm ad-libbing that. That might not be accurate. But there's some talk of that. So I don't know if that's likely to happen, but it might be good. But she's a fantastic actor. Chadwick Boseman was amazing as well.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Really good. I followed that on the plane out. Rather, unfortunately, my choice of movies went downhill as I went.
Right.
I decided I needed to catch up with Justice League.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The silence is deafening.
That's just not a good film, is it?
No, big bad evil guy wants some boxes, and they try and stop him getting the boxes. They do. The end.
There are some elements of it that are okay.
Aquaman is good.
Aquaman's a great, like, very charismatic as the character.
Yeah. I still like Ben Affleck as Batman.
Yeah, he's a good Batman. It's the I think it's the script and the stories are, and just the way it's cut. It's just not good. And there was somebody who did like an expose or not an expose, a dissection of the difference between Marvel and DC action scenes. And it actually goes a long way to explain why the DC films were a bit shit. With the Marvel films, you have these massive action moments.
Yeah.
But they're cut with like really witty, clever one-liners and bits of dialogue or slapstick moments that sort of relieve the tension and then draw you back in, and they make the characters more relatable. Whereas DC, it's all very cheesy and serious, and it's not funny. It's not, I can't remember for the life of me what it's called, but it's like something like why the action scenes in DC movies suck. That's essentially what the video's about, and that's pretty much what it's called. So have a look for that, and it does actually go a really long way to explain, and it sort of shows a difference side by side between Marvel and DC, and how the Marvel films are so much more engaging for just the way they're written and the way that they break from the action and just like break that tension, take you out of it for a second and then slam you back in. And it's so much more engaging. The characters are so much more like human or relatable than the characters in the DC films, where they're just so serious. I'm a fucking superhero, and that's all I am. I'm a superhero. I'm not a real person. I think it's quite a clever and quite an insightful look at the differences between the two films. But yeah, not a good film. Really didn't like much about it, to be honest. Hoping
the CGI overload at the end was just terrible.
The whole
there's
thing.
There's some really bad shots in the big battle at the end of that film.
And the moustache cover up is just unforgivable.
Oh Jesus! I forgot. Thanks, I'd forgotten about that. And it's the first bloody scene of the film as well, isn't it?
Really, really sets you up in a bad way for the whole movie, doesn't it? It's like
for those of you who haven't seen it, the opening scene of Justice League is mobile phone footage of Superman, and the first thing that enters your head is oh my God, what's wrong with his top lip?
Has he been in a car crash? It's not even slightly good.
It's fucking awful.
Shame. But so that happened. I only watched 2 films on the way out, and then I watched a bit of the Toys That Made Us. The second season. I got confused. I thought it was the second part of the first season, but it's actually the second season, 4 episodes long.
Okay.
So I've watched most of those as well. Have you watched any of them?
I think we've watched all 4. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, even the Hello Kitty one.
Yes, actually, we decided to watch that one because we know nothing about Hello Kitty, so we thought we'd watch it and find out what the hell is that cat all about.
Not a cat, apparently. Not a cat. That's the show. It tells you that. It says it's not.
I've forgotten it already.
There you go. I haven't watched the whole thing, to be fair, but I did mislead everyone on the last show. I said that Hello Kitty was region specific. Wherever you live, that's where Hello Kitty's from. But actually, that was bullshit. Hello Kitty is from London.
Yeah, she lives in London.
London. I thought because I'm in London and it said London, region specific, I couldn't fathom that Hello Kitty was from London. Clearly, because Hello Kitty is not from London. But anyway, people in London don't have houses like that. We don't have gardens that big. We don't live in a fucking countryside, lovely place. It's a city. But anyway, maybe they'd never seen London.
Maybe.
It's possible. But the only thing is that it has become rather formulaic. The show, it's good. It's still interesting.
It starts off with an amusing recreation, doesn't it?
It does, but it is a little bit like, here's a bit about Star Trek, but we're going to keep going back to that Star Wars one we did, but this is Star Trek. But no, we did a Star Wars one as well. Have you seen that one? And it's a little bit like that. That like through all of the episodes, they sort of cut away to here's something we did before, and it feels a little bit formulaic and a little bit like, I don't know, it's not so fresh. Like they haven't really introduced anything new in this second season. And
Is it just me? They always seem to find people that don't agree on stuff as well and make an issue of that just because two people remember things differently.
I mean, it is of course a low budget show, and they've done really well to get a second season out of it. To be fair, but yeah, and it's like the same people kind of crop up through all of them, whereas in the first one it was like, right, we're going to focus on just people from this toy. The second episode is like just people from this toy. There wasn't a lot of crossover with the talking heads, and in this second season there's quite a bit of crossover with some of the talking heads. I think if I remember correctly. Maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah, so the toys are made. So definitely worth a watch, but not as engaging as the first season, I felt. Yeah. So the film I watched on the way back, the Matt Damon film,
Matt Damon,
was Downsizing.
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't good. That was not a good film. I thought it was a comedy. I don't know why. I just assumed this shrinking man.
So that's the kind of the impression the trailers gave it several times.
It does. It's actually a very bleak tale of morality and you know, sort of a reflection on society and how some people really struggle. You know, and then the 1% really excel, and then you're facing the possible end of the world. Wow. Not at all what I was expecting. I was fighting I was fighting against jet lag on the way back. I didn't want to be jet lagged. I didn't want to fall asleep. I wanted something light to watch, so I thought I'll watch Downsizing. But being me, once I start watching something, I can't stop watching it. I have to watch it to its conclusion. So I did. It's just not the film I was expecting. The basic premise is that, they develop a way to shrink humans to, I don't know what the scale was, but
5 inches tall, I think, or something.
About 5 inches tall, yeah. And the idea being that your wealth, you could be just a modest, just getting by person, managing to pay the bills person. But if you shrunk yourself, your wealth, the ratio made you extremely rich, and you could live a plush, sort of very, very comfortable life as a shrunken person. And they have these big cities and towns and domes that they live in, and they just live normal life, but just much, much smaller and much better off. And the idea is that he and his wife are struggling to get by as full-size people, and so they decide that they will shrink themselves where they can live a comfortable life as small people.
Yeah.
Except she bottles it at the last minute and leaves him shrunk and not knowing what to do with himself, and obviously his wealth, it's complicated because the wealth obviously isn't all his. He has to divide it between his wife and him, which leaves him with not enough money to live comfortably as a small person. So he has to get a job, and he's working a shitty job in a call centre. And then he finds his finding, because he's kind of like an occupational therapist, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like working on muscle strain, like repetitive strain injuries, that kind of thing in the workplace. And he finds a use for that, helping people that are shrunk, but working as cleaners for other people and living in poverty, actually outside of the dome, and in like horrible situations where they don't have medicine, they don't have enough food, they don't have clean water supply, and just living in squalor. And essentially it's the same dynamic as the big world, but in this shrunken world where everybody's supposed to be much better off. And so it turns into this real tale of morality and like a search to discover himself, essentially. And like I say, it's pretty bleak. not necessarily the worst film in the world, but just not.
No,
great.
it's not. It's not a bad film. It's just I think the advertising was a bit misleading.
It really did give the wrong impression completely. And, I mean, not the first time a Matt Damon film has been like weirdly presented. The Martian was put forward for a comedy award at the Golden Globes and won. Like, but that's bizarre. I don't know, maybe Matt Damon's wondering, like, what's going on with my career? Why just like everything I try and do, somebody misconstrues and misrepresents it. Matt Damon. But anyway, yeah, downsizing. So that's pretty much, other than the 100, which I won't bother going into again because I've done that a few times, and Humans. That's about all I've watched recently, to be honest, other than the World Cup.
Football, hooray!
I like kickball. Soccer. He's done a head kick into the goal mouth. That's for our American listeners. So have you watched anything else, John?
Lots. Too much for this podcast.
Pick the best. What's the best you've watched?
Let's start at the very bottom. I watched a Sylvester Stallone film called Driven.
I'm intrigued. I'm sucked in. Tell me more.
To be honest, there's not much to say.
Does it have cars in it?
It does. Apparently, Stallone's always wanted to make a Formula One film.
Oh, God, I've seen that.
But the Formula One people went, no, we're not interested. So the American IndyCar Association went, Stallone, come to us. We'll make a racing movie with you. And they basically gave him all access to whatever he wanted to make the film. What's the film about? The film's about two young drivers who battle it out. They want to be the best drivers, and there's a girl involved.
Let me stop you there, John. I can help you out here. It's Rocky with race cars.
Possibly. I can't remember Rocky 3. I was only watched it the once.
You've got a trainer. You've got two young up-and-coming drivers who have to battle it out for the title. And there's a girl involved. And you know, it comes to blows in the streets because, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a little bit of driving Indy cars on the streets.
There is, yes.
The only thing it's missing is that they didn't drive those cars up the steps at Philadelphia at the end.
But they did, that'd be quite hard.
Yeah, but, it's a bit rocky with cars.
It's rocky. I mean, the film is fucking awful anyway. The plots basically non-existent. The characters are non-existent. You don't know hardly anything about them, so you don't really care for them. No. It was directed by Reddy Harlin, who did Die Hard 2 and Cutthroat Island. Or he might have done Cliffhanger as well. I can't remember if that's him or not. But anyway, they've obviously taken the cameras to all the big race day events for IndyCar and filmed your typical kind of promo footage, you know, people working on the cars, girls in tight clothes walking around with sunglasses on, people watching races. And so the film just feels like a one long promotional video for IndyCar with these little scenes dropped in every so often that make up the plot. And it's just rubbish. It's just complete utter rubbish. Yeah. And I paid for it.
What?
I found it in a charity shop for £1, and I picked it up and I went, actually, I remember seeing a trailer for that years ago, and the bit I remember specifically was the Indy cars racing through the streets. Yeah. I thought, yeah, it's £1. I'll give that a watch. Yeah, that was a waste of. The only good thing about that film is that the charity got £1.
Exactly. I was going to say it's not a waste of money because the charity made money from it.
I mean,
and the best thing you can do is just take that back to that charity and say, sell it again.
I think I might do that. It's at home in a drawer. I think I might give it back to another charity shop. It's like, you can have that. It's fine.
Still got the price on it. You don't have to change it. It's just sell it again.
I mean, it's listed the bonus features, which is something I love watching about films. Seemed fairly extensive on the back, and there's like there's a making of. I didn't bother watching. There's a thing about the special effects I thought might be interesting, but they spent the whole time dissecting a scene that isn't even in the finished film.
Perfect.
So, thanks for going into all the details about something we didn't get to see. And unbelievably, there's 50 minutes of deleted scenes.
My God, that'd be the film. That'd be the storyline, yeah.
It's like, no, I can't be asked. The film's that bad. I'm not going to watch another 50 minutes of stuff that was considered worse, apparently, to cut out.
Oh my God.
Oh dear.
I mean, actually, you mentioned in the bonus material, that actually reminds me, we did watch another film, like just last night, actually. So poor is my memory that I can't remember yesterday.
That's fair enough.
But it's not your usual fare for this podcast. It's not a nerdy film at all. But we watched I, Tonya, which is the Tonya Harding's story, the figure skater.
Oh, right, yes.
Who nobbled her opponent, or allegedly had someone nobble her opponent, like by breaking her leg with a baton ahead of the Olympics. It's quite dark.
Is that the girl from The Big Bang Theory?
No, it's Harley Quinn from Suicide Squad. It's
okay.
Oh god, her name escapes me for the minute.
I know who you mean.
You know what I mean, and it will come to me. I mean, she's fantastic in it. It's a really good role for her. But I mean, I'm not going to go into too much depth, but it's a story behind the events that happened that saw Tonya Harding's opponent, again, whose name escapes me right at the minute. I remember all this happening when it happened in the early 90s and being quite interested in the story. But it's a black comedy, and some of the scenes are quite hard to take as scenes of domestic violence, and although they're done in a kind of tongue-in-cheek way and they're treated quite well, some of it's quite hard to take, especially for anyone who has first-hand experience of that kind of thing. But what made me think about it when you mentioned the bonus material is that we rented it on BT Movies.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come with any of the bonus material. I'd be really interested to see how they filmed the ice skating scenes, because clearly the actress, whose name I still can't remember, didn't learn to ice skate at Olympic standards.
No.
For a film. Margot Robbie, that's the actress.
That's her. Yeah.
Yeah. And Sebastian Stan was in it as well, who's the Winter Soldier in the Marvel films.
Oh, yeah.
Again, unrecognisable, really. As he's such a diverse character, you can see him in anything but not recognise him from anything. It's quite good. But I'd love to see how they did that, because there's clearly scenes where they zoom down on the legs and then they zoom back and it's a wide angle shot, and clearly that's someone else doing the ice skating. But there's close up scenes of her face, like doing these pirouettes and doing these jumps, and I'd be interested to see how they did that. So that's bonus material, of which I don't usually watch. I usually don't ever watch anything extra on DVDs or Blu-rays. But I would be quite interested to see how they did the effects on that film. It'd be quite interesting. Yes. Sorry, Tonya, sort of little diversion there. I mean, it's two like comic book characters in it, I suppose, like actors that have been comic book characters. That's kind of a tenuous link. So what else have you seen? What else is on your list?
What's on the list?
Bearing in mind I asked you to pick the best and you came up with Driven.
I thought I'd start at the bottom and work up.
Okay, good. Glad we clarified that.
What can you say about Ready Player One, apart from, I think did you call it a nostalgia wank, or did I just...
Yeah, no, it's a nostalgia wank fest, yes. Somebody in Canada picked me up and went, I don't think you realise that means something quite different here in Canada. What do you think it means? And he was like, masturbating. I was like, yeah, it's exactly what I mean. Same thing. It's basically the CGI artist wanking all over the screen. Like, there you go. Let's put everything in there. It's not a good film. That's my catchphrase.
I found it quite entertaining, but it's when you sort of think about it afterwards. If it's not for the nostalgia, there's not really much else to it.
Yeah, I mean, this is all. That was the only bit that kept me engaged with it in any way. Was that I enjoyed spotting all the nostalgia, all the like the cars and the characters and the little nods to things from my childhood. But as a story in itself, I just didn't think it worked. I didn't care about the characters, perhaps because a lot of the time they're CGI characters.
All right, because they're in the Oasis all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I knew to expect that, obviously. Having read the book, I wasn't expecting it to be, a live action film as such. I was expecting a lot of CGI, but it just didn't. I just didn't find it engaging at all. I wasn't rooting for the characters. I wasn't engaged by the story. I felt that they treated it a bit haphazard. It felt rushed through and not anywhere near as clever as the book. I don't know.
Plus, it also occurred to me, what kind of audience is it aiming for? Because
that's
so much of this nostalgia is kind of like the book. It's 80s nostalgia,
Yeah.
So the younger audience is going to be like, why is that amazing? That's some crappy old show I've never seen.
Well,
So it's like,
maybe we're showing our age,
perhaps we are.
as middle-aged fathers. Perhaps we're not in touch with the target audience. Perhaps kids are into that stuff. Maybe 80s and 90s nostalgia is what interests them. There's a resurgence in retro gaming. It has been for a long time. Perhaps
true.
Kids are into that. I don't know. I mean, I don't have any kids of that age, or I don't really know anyone of that age that it would be the main demographic. I don't know, perhaps, but it does feel like it was made for us 40-something-year-olds, but it's still aimed at a younger audience. I don't know. There was
some
dumb.
young. I think there was one or two younger characters I noticed. I can't remember the name of the game. So some popular multiplayer game on PS4 and Xbox. I can't remember its name, but some of the characters from that I noticed were in the big battle at the end.
Okay.
So they do kind of.
Yeah, I guess
span the age a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, I don't know how many teenagers are going to watch that film and recognise the Mad Max car or the Akira bike, or I don't know.
The Shining sequence. It's been lost on most people, isn't it?
Well, yeah, to be honest, it was lost on me as well. I've not watched. I don't think I've ever seen The Shining. Perhaps that's my problem. Maybe that's something I should watch as a classic piece of cinema. But I hadn't seen it, so it was kind of lost on me. But still, that was actually one of the more interesting parts of the film for me, bizarrely. I kind of enjoyed that element of the film more than a lot of it. I mean, the car race at the beginning, it was literally just there to say, look, there's the A-Team van, look, there's the Mad Max car, look.
There's the Batmobile.
There's
King Kong.
Like, look at how much stuff we can put on the screen at one time.
I know, that was kind of a bit of sort of in-your-face overload at that point.
I felt so.
That's the beginning of the film as well, isn't it? It's just like, look at all this nostalgia.
We're not going to do it once. We're going to do it twice. Like, look, we've had one race, didn't work out. Let's have another race. Yay!
Yes, we'll keep on showing it to see the character figure it out. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't enjoy it so much. Still like the book. Not a big fan of the film. I have no desire to watch it again.
Fair enough.
Okay, what next?
Let's give a mention to Tremors: A Cold Day in Hell.
Okay, inform me, what is this?
This is the 6th film of the Tremors franchise.
The 6th film. There's people listening to that going, 6?
I think most people might be aware there might have been a 2, but not a 6.
Anyone that's ever watched ITV2 late at night, maybe even ITV3, has probably seen Tremors 1, 2, maybe even 3, but 6. 6. And is it any good?
No. I'm going to say better than 5. No, actually, I think I had such a low expectation of it. I actually found it it's all quite enjoyable.
Okay.
But you can tell the budget is getting severely reduced. I mean, for those who don't know, the original Tremors did get a theatrical release. It's become kind of a cult classic. And because of that, the number 2 onwards has been a straight to video / DVD / on demand thing as it goes through the years. And this is number 6, and as the title suggests, A Cold Day in Hell. This is set within the Arctic Circle.
Right. Obviously,
it's got the main character Burt Gummer, who's been in every single one since the beginning. And yeah, it's just the thing that I remember the most, the fact that the creatures themselves, if you don't know, again, are these giant sort of basically worms that move around underground and pop out of the earth and go, hello, and eat you.
Terrifying.
Terrifying, yes.
They track you by vibrations in the ground.
That's right, yes. They sense your vibrations, so in most of the films, people end up standing on rocks to try and avoid them. But yeah, what strikes me most about this one is that the budget seems to be getting so weak now that you barely even see the creatures this time.
Oh dear.
If I'm not mistaken, there's definitely one, if not two, deaths that actually happen off screen. So the one that always there's one character who the director must have gone up to him and said, "Can you play this guy as annoying as possible, please? Because it's blatantly obvious you're going to die at some point." And he gets dragged into the ground by the worms to be eaten, but all you see is like 3/4 length of him on the floor. You don't see his feet, and he just gets dragged off screen screaming. So it's just. It's like, Christ, is it, oh dear.
Filmed on an iPhone.
Filmed on an iPhone with some rubber worms. Oh dear. It's not bad. It's better than 5, but I can't see them carrying on. Speaking of which, I was quite disappointed to hear the sci-fi Tremors reboot TV series got cancelled, which had Kevin Bacon in it to playing the.
Yeah, wow. Because he was in the first one, wasn't he?
He was in the first one. So, Kevin Bacon come back to play that character again. And it's the distance, this series would be set the same amount of years it's been since the original film. Wow. So I think his name is Earl. So Earl goes back to this small town of perfection. He was a big hero, but now he's a bit washed up. He's an alcoholic. And
does he adverts in the UK?
Yes.
Selling mobile phones on UK advertising.
God. Yeah. But he's an alcoholic. He's a washed up hero, and he comes back to perfection. But also, it turns out, I guess the creatures have come back, and Sci-Fi said, "No, I don't think we'll carry on with this." So there was a 2-3 minute trailer that exists online. I'm keeping my fingers crossed as a Tremors fan that hopefully that pilot might get leaked online one day as well, so we can see, what it is we've missed out on.
Yeah. There's something else been cancelled recently. It's not that I've ever seen a single episode, but it's Comic Book Men, which is
I heard about that. Yeah, yesterday.
The Kevin Smith TV show. He wasn't really in the show, but it's some of the guys that have been in his films. I'm familiar with them from a podcast called Tell 'em Steve Dave, which I've been a fan of for a long time, but I haven't listened to for about a year. And they got picked up. I mean, mainly I stopped listening to their podcast because they kept talking about the bloody TV show, which I couldn't watch. It's hugely frustrating to always hear about something you can't see.
Yeah.
But I'm sure I could find it somehow, but I've never actually felt that bothered to do it. But I think they had 7 seasons or something, 96 episodes. And it was basically, again, I don't know if you're familiar with it. There's a show called Porn Stars.
Oh, I don't. Yes, as in the selling of goods to get money.
Exactly, US. Yeah, not porn, as in fucking on TV. As in, it's one of these unscripted reality shows, and basically it would be people would bring stuff into the comic book shop, which was actually Kevin Smith's store in New Jersey, the Secret Stash. The guys that actually work there, it's Walt Flanagan is the manager. He's been Kevin's friend forever, and he plays I think 5 or 6 characters in Clerks, if you've ever seen that.
Yeah.
And then Brian Johnson, again another long-term friend, and I think Brian and Walter went to school together, and then just like the clerks from the comic book shop, and people would bring stuff in, like old memorabilia or whatever, and they'd look at it, say how much it was worth, and say a bit about it. And then they'd have guests on as well, like they'd have Stan Lee on as a guest, and he would talk about stuff that he's been involved with, like mostly getting ripped off by his family or whatever financially is going on with him these days. And but yeah, after 96 episodes, it got cancelled by AMC. They said it was no longer viable. And of course, there's a full-length podcast with Kevin Smith, about 2 hours long, dissecting that whole thing about being cancelled.
God, 96.
Yeah. So those guys are out of work now. I mean,
I think I tried watching the first episode, and it was just like, this is boring.
Yeah, well, they said that. I mean, that was it. The reviews of the first 2 or 3 episodes are so bad. They were like, we're never going to get past like half a season, let alone a full season. And then after a while, it sort of picked up, and they started having the guests on, and it became more viewable, and people started getting into it. So I guess they found their formula and they found their format, and it started to gel and make sense. But the first few episodes were just a bit, they didn't really know what to do, because none of them had been on TV before. They literally work in a comic shop, and then they're being asked to be TV stars. So it's quite a leap. But so that got cancelled. I think, John, having nearly spoken for an hour now, we should probably talk about something other than TV and film.
Oh, okay.
If that's okay.
That's fine.
And going back to film, I don't know if you saw, it's a film link. One of the original Nike mags from Back to the Future 2, just the left one, is on sale in auction. And the interesting
bid for that.
Well, it's going to be phenomenal. But
yeah,
the interesting thing about it is, I don't know if there's a starting price, to be honest, a guide price. But the interesting thing about it is it's actually rotting.
I think I've seen this somewhere. Yeah, they're falling apart basically.
There's only the left one left.
I thought some collector would be like, I'm gonna be a bastard, I'm gonna split the pair up.
No, it's a guy that used to work for Nike, and I guess in their sort of research and development department, there were several versions of the shoe made, or several pairs made of the shoe, and he was able to keep one after the shooting of Back to the Future 2, which he has kept, but he's kept it in a glass case. I don't think it's been sort of hermetically sealed, or whatever the term is.
Yeah.
And so it has decomposed. The rubber has literally started degrading and falling apart. Now, he's kept most of the rubber, but it is just crumbs. So you do get pretty much a whole shoe, just not as a shoe.
Not as a shoe.
You can tell what it is. You can tell, like, the shape of the shoe is there. The upper is no longer attached to the sole, but it just sort of rests on it. And he's carefully placed all the dust around the shoe to show, look, it's there. But yeah, the shoe's literally falling apart, literally degrading. If whoever buys it has to treat it with the same care as a museum handler would. So you have to wear the gloves, and you have to, it has to be collected. He's not paying for it to be delivered anywhere. It's literally like, this thing is going to fall apart if it's not treated properly. And but it is likely to sell for huge sums of money, because
it will do. Yeah,
collectors are collectors. I mean, collecting sneakers, as our American friends like to call them, is big business anyway. Add a pop culture element to it, and suddenly these things are worth a fortune. So that was an interesting story. Similar story, auction. Han Solo's blaster from Return of the Jedi sold for $550,000 in auction. That's crazy money. That's 500,000. So no, it's 50,000. $50,000 more than the highest expected price for that. So that's a lot of money, and that I think goes to charity as well, which is a good thing. But that was the US art director for the film. Kept one. I think there were 4 made for the film.
I see. Sneaky.
He kept one after the film finished production, and he's donated that, and it's made a lot of money for charity, which is nice.
Lovely,
yes. What else has been going on, John? What else nerdy? Have you done anything lately?
I decided to read. Is it Mortal Engines?
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a film of that coming out, a TV series.
It's a film, yes. Being produced by Peter Jackson. I can't remember the director's name, but it's someone who's been doing visual effects for Peter Jackson since the Brain Dead days.
Right.
So this is his first directorial effort. There's 4. They're young adult novels, and there's 4 of them, and it looks like the film's based on the first one, and it is set in a sort of a apocalyptic / sort of steampunk type future, where cities are no longer dwellings on land. A city is now literally on wheels.
For what purpose?
To stay alive, rather than just sort of be in one place and just end up being nothing because you run out of resources. Entire cities can now travel around the globe, it seems, or on land at least. And because all these different cities are all on wheels, cities literally eat each other.
Wow.
The bigger cities eat the smaller cities, and then what they capture, they break down into component parts and recycle it and use that to keep on living.
Okay.
But
So-
there's also elements of what's it called? The Anti-Traction League, who are people who don't like any of this cities on wheels stuff, and so they live in a protected valley, like everyone used to do. They live in houses on land.
Right.
But yeah, it's about this guy Valentine, who's being played by Hugo Weaving in the film, and this young girl called Hester tries to kill him, but she fails in her attempt. The young boy, who's sort of partly responsible for screwing up that assassination attempt, also gets thrown off the city of London. And so it's their adventure to try and get back to Valentine and kill him, and all the adventure they have on the way. It's a really good book.
Oh, right, cool. And how far are you through that?
I finished that one.
Oh, you finished that one. Are you going to
Yeah.
read the second, third, and fourth?
I am, yes. I'm going to move on to the other ones and see how the story progresses.
Oh, nice. Oh, I'll have to look out for those. I didn't know that they were novels, and that it was an adaptation. I'd obviously seen the write up you'd done on it, but yeah, I didn't realise that. Novels. So that's something I'll look out for. I've got a couple of books lined up. I finally got through Cory Doctorow's Walk Away, which left me rather jaded, feeling like I've wasted 3 months of my life getting through it. My review of that will be up soon, and it gives you an idea like how fucking hard work that book was. I'm not a dumb reader. I'm not the fastest in the world, but I'm not the slowest either. And I finished that. I can't even remember. I think I finished it when I went to New York, John. I think I finished it there.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't mentioned that, have I? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Maybe. And so I think I finished it there. And in the time it's taken me since I've been back, I haven't brought myself to write the review. I haven't had the time because aforementioned father problems. And but in the time that I've finished that, I've almost finished the next book. It's like, which is infinitely easier to read, and it's a book. I can't remember it's Naomi someone. I can't remember Naomi Watson or I don't know. That's probably wrong. But it's a book called The Power, and essentially, are you googling it? That would be helpful. It's a book called The Power, and it's about girls suddenly develop this electrical power. Like they develop this thing in their collarbones. It's like a gland that gives them the ability to discharge electricity from their hands, and effectively we find there's a change in the balance of power, and women suddenly become the dominant sex on Earth, and how that plays out. And you've got religious elements to it, and people that believe that God is a woman, and this is her showing the power, and it becomes this cult thing, and there's a crime element to it. And it's a really fascinating story, and it like each chapter tells a little bit of a story of a different character, but it keeps coming back to the same character. So maybe that's 3 or 4 main characters. You have one chapter with one character, one chapter for the next character, one for the third, one for the fourth, and back to the first, and they kind of cross paths along the way. So it's a really fascinating book, and really interesting as well. As a male, it's a slightly daunting task to think that suddenly women who have felt oppressed for a long, long time would suddenly seek revenge on all of mankind, and you would suddenly become a minority, and certainly the weaker sex on Earth. I don't consider myself an alpha male or a dominant person. I obviously try and live equally with my wife, as I'm sure most modern men do these days, but to think that you could be victimized because the balance of power shifts so greatly, it's quite an eye-opener, and very, very, very fascinating. So yeah, that's my current read, which I'll have finished fairly soon, probably by the end of camping, because I fucking hate camping. Just gonna sit in a tent and read. protest.
A wafer thin piece of sponge to lie on inside a boiling hot sleeping bag.
I mean, the weather's going to be amazing as well for camping. It's currently, I don't do Fahrenheit, so apologies, Americans, but it's Celsius. It's going to be Celsius or centigrade. What is it? It's the same, isn't it? C.
The one where boiling is C. The one where boiling is 100.
So I mean, it's currently what 20. It's like 27, 28 degrees C at the minute. So it's quite warm. I've got to find the author of that book. Let me look it up. So The Power, Naomi Alderman, which is nothing like what I said, which was Watson, I think. Naomi Alderman. Really fantastic book. Really enjoyed that. I've got another book lined up by Alistair Reynolds, who did that Pushing Ice book that you can get on with.
Oh yes.
So I've got another book of his lined up because I really enjoyed that. And
Cool.
I've also got a science fiction novel by Terry Pratchett and some other dude whose name I can't remember. But I've got the second in a series of 3, so I need to try and find the first one first because I'm a completist. I can't start at number 2. That would be wrong.
Oh, that would be wrong. It's very wrong.
So yeah. Other than that, nerdy wise, I was in New York recently, John. I don't know if I mentioned it.
I'm stuck in a time loop.
But coincidence, as it happens, while I was in New York, a mere 6 blocks from where we were staying, there happened to be a nerdcore hip hop gig, and it was part of something called HushCon, which is a hackers convention, which normally takes place in Brooklyn, which is on the other side of the river from where we were, but this year took place in Manhattan in East Village. Yeah, and so 6 blocks from where I was, there's like nerdcore hip hop gig happening.
Cool.
Schaefer the Dark Lord, who,
awesome.
if no one's listened to, is freaking amazing. Just a really, really talented guy with a really twisted view on the world. There was Dualcore, who I've seen in London, but now I've also seen in New York, who is a phenomenal rapper who raps mostly about hacking, to be fair, which is why he was there. There was Lex, the Lexicon artist, who was someone I wasn't familiar with, but she is pretty phenomenal as well. More so live than recorded. Her album just came out, but it's worth a listen anyway. And cool. Also Michael Kill, who is somebody I've been talking to forever on Skype and via social media. Somebody who I've interviewed at least twice, maybe 3 times on a music podcast. Somebody who's released 5 or 6 tracks through the website on his Song Flip Friday thing that he did for a while. And to finally meet him was really bizarre. It was just like, I've known you forever. It's kind of weird that we've never met before. So that was really fun. So I got to see all those guys perform and literally walking distance from where I was staying, just by pure coincidence on the time I was staying there, which is fantastic.
Awesome.
Really enjoyed that. So there we go. I think that's about it, John.
That sounds like a nice place to wrap it up.
Certainly am going to wrap it up, and I'm going to wrap it up with a song. Our theme tune, I don't know if anyone listens right to the end of the show, because I play quite a bit of the song at the end of the show. It's by Malibu Shark Attack. The shark reference being the link there, Jump the Shark, Malibu Shark Attack, who are a great group. They're kind of an international group. You've got the producer and the main music writer is a guy called Rocky O'Reilly, and he's guess the name, he's Irish, and, but he's quite well known in the Irish music scene. He's quite he's quite well known. And then the main rapper is Tribe One, who is American. I can't recall whereabouts he's from exactly. He's kind of stopped rapping at the moment because he's got a little one and he started a teaching job or whatever. But yeah, phenomenally talented rapper, like really fast. He did a song called The A to Z of Marvel, where it's basically rapped all the Marvel characters through. so phenomenal. Look that up. And he worked with Adam Warrock as well, who again isn't rapping anymore, but the two of those together, really good combination, great talents. So the theme music is the title for this podcast is Malibu Shark Attack by Malibu Shark Attack, and I usually play that at the end a little bit further, so it gets to the part where it says Malibu Shark Attack and then it cuts off. But this time, John, I'm going to play a different song by Malibu Shark Attack. I'm going to play Yo. What's it called? Put the Yo into New York, I think it's called. It may not be called that. But basically, I went to New York and I'm going to play a New York song. But anyway, that's Jump the Shark. That's the latest episode of Jump the Shark from theunheardnerd.com. It's a pop culture podcast. And it's fun with me and John every time. So if you like what you've heard, you can rate us. And we have had a review. Fuck, I can't believe I forgot that.
What? Why did you not tell me that?
We've got a review on iTunes, or sorry, on Apple Podcasts. Bear with me. Please hold. Your call is important. Please hold. Your call is important.
Have some free techno.
Techno thing. I like it. 5 out of 5 stars.
What? How much did you pay him?
That's amazing. Evil Keg, aka Alpha and Keith. We haven't done any shout outs in this show, but big shout out to Keith and All Hail Jeffy Jeff.
Special. How is All Hail Jeffy Jeff?
All Hail Jeffy Jeff. A really entertaining. Sorry, yep. A really entertaining podcast which takes a look at films, TV shows, and books/comics. These guys dig into all manner of entertainment media with a heavy dose of humour and sarcasm. Do not. Take a listen, download, and join the army of fans eager for a shout out. So big ups, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
Keith's amazing. Keith put on Facebook this week that I don't know if this will go internationally, I don't know how well known it is, but he actually had the track of the month in Mixmag magazine once.
I saw
That's
that.
pretty impressive. That's pretty impressive. So yeah, he's the bass player in our band, and he's also a producer of music in his own right, sort of breakbeat stuff mostly. So yeah, Evil Keg, look him up on Twitter and maybe you'll find some of his tunes as well. So no shout outs this week for Craig, Ben, or Jamie, or any of those guys, because none of them
definitely not mentioning them.
No one said anything. But if you do like the show, please do give us a star rating, give us a little review. It will help us get noticed more. We'll get more listeners, and the more listeners we get, the better the show's going to be, because we'll be more engaged, rather than doing a little show for our friends. you're all our friends, but you know what I mean. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're now on Google Podcasts, which is the app for Android, specific podcast app. John tested it. It definitely works, right, John?
Yeah, we're definitely there. It definitely works.
All the shows are there. You can listen to that. And we're also on Stitcher as well. And pretty much any podcast aggregator. I always say aggregator. I don't know if that's the right word. But any thing that captures podcast feeds, we're on them. Just search for The Unheard Nerd. Give us a review. Give us a star rating. Give us a thumbs up. Share. Just let people know you're listening. It really does make a difference. And we thank you for it. So... yeah, you can get in touch. Yeah, Twitter at The Unheard Nerd, at UK Film Nerd, at That Nerd Will, facebook.com/The Unheard Nerd, and email is theunheardnerd@gmail.com. Get in touch. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you don't like. Let us know what we got wrong. Specifically, send your hate mail, because we are far more likely to read that out. And also, if you comment on anything on our website, I've turned comments back on because my life isn't under threat at the moment from anyone in particular. So I've turned the comments back on the website. If you comment on an article on the website, we're going to start reading the best ones out on the show. So that's the incentive to go on to theunheardnerd.com and write some bullshit underneath our bullshit. So until next time, that's a long outro, John.
That was a very long one.
Put the Yo into New York. That's what the song's called. I've just remembered. It's called Put the Yo into New York. I'm going to play that out. Until next time, John, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Laters. Bye-bye.
Ayo, the burners in the building. Moving up the eastern seaboard, Malibu to New York to Nova Scotia. Might gotta take my shirt off.
Oh snap, this is no act, this is no accident. No low fat Atkins stamped on the package. We don't hold hands and we don't fold napkins. Rap game Frodo Baggins, marching in the Mordor solo. So old fashioned, so Cro-Magnon, practically half Jurassic. Massive Tyrannosaurus swag is classic. I'm a grown man so I don't throw tantrums. Just go ham yelling YOLO. Don't go back on a word, no quotes redacted. We master the curve, you're below the average. Crafted and nurtured a chapter and verse so the pastors and churches will quote this passage. Now don't act so mad just cause you don't have post-grad vocab. Dope raps in an accent thick as molasses. Back since Jackie Onassis. Check it. Atlanta to Canada, traveling the road map. From Staten to Manhattan, we put in the yo back like yo, it's in New York. Yo, it's in New York. Yo, it's in New York. To New York, to New York. Put the yo, it's in New York. Yo, it's in New York. Yo, it's in New York. To New York, to New York. My whole team is so fresh and so clean. Dressed to impress, double decker supreme. All of these ladies no less than a queen on the scene. So fetching, so mean. I live my whole life like this Friday Night Lights, Matt Saracen. With a rap flow that has no comparison. I'm half black, half actual alien. Galaxy class, yo, Astro-American. Haters insist on the way that we live is immature. They get a ticket to take a trip on the Hindenburg. My language addiction is changing the hipsters and the nerds. Making it Middle Earth and Williamsburg.
Shape, you can drown in the wreckage. We're about to put this motherfucker down in a second. And the sound is a rhythm from a pound. And the mechanism now is a reckon. And I reckon I can rent the thing. A fidget up and getting ears disappear. Fidgets don't visit a visitor with the cat. Committed with a blister with attack. I'm a wizard in my staff game. Fidgets, I'm Alfred. Do my Batman fidget. I'm a fat the athlete. Now that's ambitious. I'm mathematic. Backflips on your mattress. That's with the big trap. Gonna put the
yo, it's in New York. Yo, it's in New York. Yo, it's in New York. To New York, to New York. Put the yo, it's in New York. Yo, it's in New York. Yo, it's in New York. To New York, to New York. It's in New York, yo, it's in New York, yo, it's in New York, to New York, to New York, with the yo, it's in New York, yo, it's in New York, yo, it's in New York, to New York, to New York.
We're not about to stop, don't worry about the clock, and we don't give a shit about noise complaints, go ahead and call the cops. Don't let the energy drop, don't top to the reach the top, we're just throwing it down in a big fucking city, just partying with robots.
The yo, it's in New York, yo, it's in New York, yo, it's in New York, to New York, to